Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sola Collins. If you're new here, hi. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for coming back and thank you for sticking with me. In today's video, I'm just going to be giving a story time of my labor and delivery story and a little bit about my pregnancy journey. If you follow me on IG, on Instagram, you would know that I'm a new mom, a first-time mom, and I am currently about 10 weeks postpartum while doing this video. So to start with, I would say I had like a pretty much easy pregnancy journey compared to some stories I've heard, and that's actually one of the reasons I am doing this video, because I remember that before I got pregnant and while I was pregnant, I watched a lot of pregnancy, labor story, delivery stories on YouTube, and they really helped me a lot to shape my thinking, to prepare my mind for birth. And I think that's why I decided I was going to do this video, and I hope that it really helps someone as much as the other videos helped me. Like I was saying, my pregnancy journey was pretty easy, to the glory of God, to be honest, because first off, I worked till like 38 weeks, and I could actually go longer, but I stopped working because I had my mom over, so I just wanted to spend some time with her after such a long time. Throughout my 40 weeks of pregnancy, I actually just threw up twice, and the first one was because I was in motion and I'd just had food like 30 minutes before that time, so it was very unexpected and I was shocked myself. The second time was in my bathroom and it was just very small, and that was all. Pregnancy symptoms I would say I had was food evasion. I kind of lost appetite for the first 3 weeks, for the first 3 months, what else? And I had that issue with the smell of meat. So anything meat, it was just not me. The smell of meat, eating meat, or even cooking meat, like was not just my thing during that time. And then of course the first 3 months, tiredness. I was tired. In between work I would be tired. I would stand up, take a walk. Sometimes I would go on my break and take a nap and then come back to work. So yeah, I was that tired, but really it was just for the first 3 months, and that was even before my stomach started showing. So yeah, that's just brief about what my pregnancy was like. So yeah, preparing for labor and delivery, I would say I had watched different people's stories, so I had like gone ahead to buy different things like baby stuff. I'd already cleared those ones off my list. I already prepared my hospital bag, blah blah blah, and then I was waiting for labor. So interesting story was that I'd asked my mom earlier, how is it like? It's because in my head I'm thinking, if it happened to my mom, then it's most likely something similar will happen to me. So yeah, she told me that she usually has her babies like about 8 months and a half, like before 40 weeks. So in my head I was thinking, yeah, baby should come like 38 weeks or 37 weeks and I'll be fine. Because also when I researched, they told me that I found out that anything between 36 to 40 weeks is full term. Okay, so I was expecting my baby at 36, 37 weeks, at most 38 weeks. So that was one of the reasons I also decided I was going to start my leave at 38 weeks, hoping that baby would come even before that time or at that time exactly. And then I was waiting. 37 weeks passed, nothing happened. 38 weeks passed, nothing happened. Okay, so while I was waiting, another interesting thing I did was I put up my birth playlist, because I can't remember who now, but I know I watched someone's birth story, and the person had said she had a birth playlist. So I thought that would be interesting, right? So I put on birth playlist, and I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. I had some very danceable songs there. I'd actually thought that I was going to go into labor and maybe have some space to dance, to chill, and just wait for the contractions to come and then dance again. But It was so different. Like, who did I really think I was? Putting up Tope Alabi, Ayefele, and my most interesting Hill song, my Travis Green songs in my birth playlist. But interestingly, I don't think I got to play it for up to 30 minutes while I was in the labor and delivery ward. But yeah, I was expecting baby to come 38 weeks, nothing. Like, I didn't even have any contractions. Like, I also heard in some people's stories that they probably had some Braxton Hicks in between, and then it would stop, like false labor. But I didn't even get anything at all at 38 weeks. I didn't even know what contractions was supposed to feel like. So I went to see my doctor. At that point, I was already doing my doctor's visits every week. So I went 37 weeks. He checks, the OB checks, and he's like, oh, okay. Oh, sorry, if you hear that, that's my baby crying. I think she's having a bath. She's with her grandmother. Okay, so OB checked at 37 weeks. Says, oh, the baby is fine. Blood pressure is good. Position is fine. Let's just expect the baby anytime from now. So that was 37 weeks. I went again for the 38 weeks check. It was exactly the same thing. 39 weeks, exactly the same thing happened. Like, at that point, I was already getting anxious, but I kept on trusting God as usual, right? So I just left it. Like, I tried as much as possible not to be anxious. When the thought comes to my mind, I just wave it off and think of something else. That was 38 weeks. 39 weeks visit. The doctor checks and is like, oh, I know it's okay for you to be anxious at this time. Don't worry, baby's fine. It's okay. Anytime between now and 40 weeks is fine. Okay, so put your mind at rest. We'll be expecting baby. And on 40 weeks appointment, it was exactly the same thing. And at this point, my gynae was like, I am going to watch you now. This is 40 weeks. If nothing happens by next week, this time next week, if nothing happens and baby is not here, I'm going to have to induce you. And then I was just, I actually wasn't hoping that it was going to get to the point where I would have to be induced, because like I said, the pregnancy has been smooth. So I was just thinking that the baby would just come in at our own time. Okay, 41 weeks I went back for the appointment and baby is not here yet. And the doctor was like, oh, okay, now you're 41 weeks, I'm gonna have to book you in for induction for tomorrow. And that was a Thursday. The appointment was on a Thursday, so the doctor booked me in for Friday for induction. So I was already, like, between my 40 and 41 weeks, I was just praying. I'm like, God, please, I don't want to be induced. Let this baby come. And I just went all around. Like, I tried everything I could think about. My house has a lot of staircase. I just kept on going up and down the stairs, thinking baby would just get angry and come out. I took walks, and that at this point, between 40 and 41 weeks, I was already tired. Like, I could hardly move my legs. But I just kept on trying, going on walks as much as possible, but still baby didn't come. So 41 weeks after the doctor's appointment on Thursday, he booked me in for induction. So by evening, someone called me from the hospital on that Thursday evening, saying I should come in for COVID test, because COVID test is something that's compulsory before they can admit me in the hospital for the induction. So yeah, I went back into the hospital on Thursday night, got my COVID test done. So on Thursday, I kept on praying. I'm like, God, please, something can still happen. I still trust you. Something can happen. I don't want to be induced. But yeah, long story short, at 10:30, I felt some interesting, unusual aches in my belly. And I'm like, is that you? Contraction? Is that you? And behold, looks like it was contraction. So yeah, contraction started coming around 10:30, but it was just mild. It would come and then it would go. That was on for like the first 1 hour, and then it left. And then when it was about 11:30 to 12 midnight, I had my shower and then I just went to bed. So I was able to sleep. That's to tell you that the contraction wasn't even as painful. So it was quite mild. Wasn't able to, it didn't hinder me from sleeping, so I slept. And then at about 3:30 a.m. the contractions woke me, so it was becoming stronger. I actually didn't wake my husband at this point. I was like, maybe it's false, let me just start tracking it. So I started tracking it with the contractions app on my phone, and I was tracking, and when it was about 4:30, it was getting stronger and closer together. So I knew it doesn't seem like they're going back from here. So I stood up, since I couldn't sleep anymore anyway. So I stood up and I went to have my bath and dressed up, and I was preparing for the hospital, because they had told me earlier that they would call me around 6:30 to let me know when to start coming, when the result of my COVID test comes in. So yeah, call came in at about 6:30 exact. So I left the house about 7, got to the hospital about 8 a.m. I actually had some mild breakfast before I left the house. So got to the hospital about 8 a.m. and they checked me in as usual, and then they gave me a bed and said, oh, I should wait for my OB to check me. So I told the nurse, I'm like, I think I already started having contractions. At that point in the morning, I was already having contractions that were trackable. I would say that they were trackable, because they were not so close enough together, but at least they were trackable. So I told her, and she was like, oh, that's good, let your OB come in. So the OB came in and checked, and she was like, oh, I'm going to have to check you to know whether I'm going to induce you and what method I'm going to use in inducing. I'm like, okay, but do we still need to induce? I think I'm having contractions already. And she's like, oh, she'll decide, let her check. And then she checked. Let's not even talk about the checking process, guys. It's one of the most awkward things I've ever felt. I wouldn't say it's painful, to be honest. It's just very awkward. The OB, she's a lady. She told me earlier, she's like, oh, I don't know how to explain this check to you. I've had 2 kids and still I don't know how to explain what the check feels like. It's just very awkward. She had told me earlier, so I could have said maybe I prepared my mind for it. So she checked and she's like, oh, good, you're already 3 centimeters dilated. And I'm like, interesting. So what next? She's like, oh yeah, you're 3 centimeters dilated. I'm going to check you into, oh, I didn't state at this point I was still at triage, so I was not inside labor and delivery yet. I was still in the triage section. That's where they check you before they decide whether you're ready for active labor, and then they move you to labor and delivery. So yeah, after she checked, the nurse came and said, oh, she's moving me to labor and delivery, change into this. I walked to labor and delivery, and then I was told that she was still going to induce me with oxytocin. See, when she told me this, I was almost a little disappointed, right? But I'd already prepared my mind, because in someone's birth story, they had already said, don't have some sort of birth plan in your mind so that you don't feel disappointed if it has to change. So when she told me she was going to induce me, because she felt like my labor would be so slow, and then I was already 41 weeks at that point. So I just let her do her thing, because she's the professional, right? So yeah, she decided she was going to induce me with oxytocin, but first they were going to put some kind of IV fluid in me first. So they put in the IV fluid and everything still felt fine. I guess I was thinking they had already started inducing me, not knowing that it was just water or IV fluid, maybe. So nothing, it was still normal mild contractions. It will come, I'll track it, it will go. At this point, shout out to the Mississauga Hospital. They allowed me to have 2 birth partners. So I had my mom and my husband coming. So they came into the labor and delivery room. Initially at triage, no one is allowed except whoever is having the baby, right? So at this point, mom and my husband were already back. We're already in the labor room with me. So after about 30 minutes, 1 hour, the nurse was like, oh, now that you've had a bit of IV fluid, I'm going to put in the oxytocin. So I just felt business as usual. I already had IV fluid. I actually in my head didn't know that was even the induction. So when she put in the oxytocin, I think it kicked in after like 30 minutes, and then I now started having stronger contractions, like really strong contractions, and they were closer together. So the nurse had told me what to expect earlier, and she said she would prefer, like, if I don't mind. From experience, she noticed that people that use the birthing ball kind of tend to go through the contraction process and labor faster. So I'm like, okay, why not bring it on, bring the ball, I'm good. So she brought the ball and the ball was so huge. Like, I'm not so much of a tall person, so when I sit on the ball, my feet would barely touch the ground. So the ball was that huge. It was almost ×2 of the one I have at home. But yeah, it was cool. I sat on the ball, and then I'll have this strong contraction, and I'll hold on to my husband and my mom together. And yeah, I went through that for about 1 hour sitting on the ball. At this point, she was still monitoring the baby. She was so nice enough to give me the wireless monitor so that I can move around the room instead of just laying in bed. So yeah, that was why I was able to sit on the ball. So yeah, she gave me the ball. I sat on it. The contractions started coming, and it started getting crazy. Crazy in the sense that it started becoming different from the normal one I've been feeling. It was very strong. One notable one that came, where the one that broke the camel's back, and I'm like, come on guys, I'm no more sitting on this ball, I'm going back to bed. The contractions came, the first one came, and I'm like, okay, breathe, okay, and then it left me. So I felt like I was having this pounding sound at my back, and I'm like, maybe if my husband tries to massage that part of my back when the contraction comes, it could help. So I told him, I'm like, babe, please, the next time I have these contractions, hit my back, hit this place, like massage this place in my back. It's like, okay. So another one came, and then when this one came, like, it came and it was so strong, and once he just tried to massage my back, I got very angry. It was so annoying. I'm like, stop, please leave me. I don't know how it must have felt though, because I asked him to do it, and now I'm being cranky, right? But I guess it's just one of those things while you're in labor. So yeah, that left, and after that second one left, sir, at that point I'm like, no, I'm going back to bed, please. I'm done sitting on this ball, because I kind of felt like I almost fell when I was having that contraction, because my legs were barely on the ground, right? So at that point I'm like, please, I'm going back to bed. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm standing up from this point, but still within the same room right now. So I'm like, if I'm standing up from this point, I'm going to the bed. So, and I had the drip and all in my hand, like the IV fluid and the oxytocin with the hanger on my hand. So I'm like, okay, assist me, let me go back. So someone helped me up. I think it was my husband. Then my mom was pushing the I don't know, the pole where they hung all the other things, right? So as I got to bed, I got another contraction. So literally I got like 5 contractions like 4 contractions in 5 minutes. So the first one was on the ball. The second one was as I was walking to the bed. I got another one as I sat down on the bed. So I just quickly sat down on the bed so that the contraction would go. So I'm like, let me not sleep on this bed yet. Let me use the washroom. So as I was going to the washroom in the same room, I had another contraction. And then I left the washroom and I was coming back to bed. I had another contraction. Bearing in mind that this was within 5 minutes. At this point, I'm like, no, guys, I'm done. I'm done. Please, can you give me the epidural now? Oh my God. Yeah, so then the lady was like, okay, yeah, that's the nurse now. The nurse with me, my nurse, she's like, let her check me. And she had told me earlier that it's usually better to take it around like 5 centimeters. So she checked, and when she checked, luckily it was 5 centimeters. I'm like, please, can you call these guys? So the guys came, and at this point, all the stories they were saying, like, oh, the side effects, this, the that, wasn't even entering my head. All that was on my head was, can you guys please give me this epidural, please? Bearing in mind that before I went into labor, before delivery at all, like, I'd done some research about epidural. I'd had a discussion with my husband. And our conclusion was that if need be, if I can't handle it anymore, I'm going to take the epidural, and we're both fine by it. Okay, and then I just want to use this opportunity to debunk the popular opinion that epidural gives you backache after delivery, blah blah blah. I'd say everything has their own side effects, but there is no evidence to state that epidural actually is the cause of a backache after you've had your baby, like maybe weeks after. Of course, the first few weeks after you had your baby, your body's still tired, and also, but if you keep having terrible backaches, there is no evidence to show that it is the epidural that caused the backache. I actually know some people that after they had their babies, they didn't even have epidural and they still had backaches. So yeah, this is just to debunk that. So at this point, the epidural guy came in, and then he told me everything about epidural, what to expect, how it would be administered, and then he said it was time for him to put the epidural needle in, and then put the pipe in so that I can start receiving the pain relief medication. And then I had another contraction. At this point, I'm like, come on. And if you're familiar with epidural, you are not supposed to move when you're putting that needle in. So at this point, I now remembered the side effects that the guy had mentioned, paralysis. I'm like, I held the pillow tight and I'm like, it's either you stay still or you get paralyzed. Yeah, but that stage passed, the contraction left, and then the guy continued, right? But at that point, I think the epidural kicked in like 10 minutes after, or like 5 to 10 minutes after, and I couldn't feel my legs anymore, but I also couldn't feel the contractions anymore. So it was like they poured cold water on me, at least, well, not cold, but warm water. So I was able to sleep, and from like 5 centimeters, I slept through till when it was about 8 centimeters. And I know because I woke up and then they came back to check and it was 8 centimeters. So yeah, that should be around like 1 p.m, 1:30 p.m, 2 p.m. At about 4, again, they came to check and that was already 10 centimeters dilated. So I was close to the time to push. So the nurse went right ahead, put things together, and she's like, she's coming, and then when she comes back, we'll start the push process. So she had explained to me that for a first-time mom, usually it takes about 30 minutes between when I start to push and when the baby comes out. So she's going to start with me before she calls the OB. 4:15, we started the push process. And she's like, and one of the things I dread was, I don't know how it's going to happen, like what's going to happen when I start to push, how long, how painful, you know. I've heard stories, right? So she says anytime that I feel a contraction, I should give it my, like, all the energy I can gather and just push. So yeah, the first contraction came, that one left, nothing happened. And then on the second time, so I started pushing at 4:15, right? 4:15 p.m. on that Friday. So the second contraction was coming, so I told that I pushed on the second contraction, the first one, the second one, and then the third one, she's like, oh, I can see the baby's head. And she was so surprised, like she was thinking, because that was barely like 5 minutes, right? She's like, oh my god, she can see the baby. So she quickly called on the OB to come. So the OB just like rushed in, and the OB took over from the nurse, and she's like, okay, once you have another contraction and you're ready, let me know. So another contraction was coming, and then I pushed on the second push, or that third contraction, the baby's head came out, and then the OB just guarded her head and her body out gradually. And at that point, I felt like the best feeling in the world, to be honest. Like all the tightness, and my belly just went down, not flat obviously, but I just felt something come out of me, and I'm like, oh my god, glory to God. I guess that was even the first thing that came to my mouth, like, oh god, glory to God. And then my baby's here, and so they put the baby on my chest. My husband caught the umbilical cord, and it was just a beautiful experience. I'd say the baby came out at 4:21 p.m. and I started pushing at 4:15. So that's actually 6 minutes. So to be honest, this was supernatural. It could only be God. Yeah, could only be God. I'm super grateful for the birth experience, and I'm grateful for God providing the best team, the best nurses, OB, family. It was just a sweet experience, to be honest. And another reason for doing this video is I just wanted to state it out there to somebody that supernatural experience for you is different from a supernatural experience for someone else. Your supernatural experience could just be the fact that you had support, you had a healthy baby, yeah. And then for someone else, supernatural experience could mean no pains. I would say I had some pains, but yeah, it's a supernatural experience because I had epidural. So because you had epidural doesn't mean it's not a supernatural birth experience. What's most important is that you have a healthy baby, healthy mom, you have support, you are just happy, and to God's glory, to be honest. So yeah, I'll say my experience was supernatural. I had 6 minutes of actual push labor. Labor, of course, not 6 minutes, right? But the point where I was supposed to start to push and to the point where the baby came out was just 6 minutes, which I totally give glory to God for that. Also, OB had to do some stitches, but I actually didn't feel the pain at this point because I still had the medications running, right? So yeah, I'm giving glory to God. Baby's healthy, mom is healthy, and like, what more can I ask for? I'm grateful. So if you watched to this point, thank you very much for watching this story. It was never meant to be a horror story, to be honest. If you're pregnant, you're a mom to be, you're a first-time mom, and maybe you're dreading this whole experience, what you need to do is just put it in the hands of God, and trust me, it's going to be supernatural, even a lot easier than what every other person or every story you've heard. So yeah, there is no horror story because everybody's story is different. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel because I'll be having more of this type of videos, experiences, and story time videos coming your way. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.